of R&B Vibes Live, Mr. Ryan Felton. Next to him, the Director of Arts Huntsville, Miss Allison Dillon-Jauken. My man doing incredible things, educational-wise, recording-wise, just great energy over there at the Maitland Conservatory, Mr. Mario Maitland. And my man doing things, powerful things, influential things in the hip-hop scene. Put your hands together for Mr. Codie G. Also, man, it's such an awesome thing to look and see how many things that these people do. It's just incredible. It's incredible. I feel like I'm lazy compared to half of these people. Producer, engineer, educator from 318 Productions, Miss Canita Rogers. And a very special guest performing tomorrow night, is that correct? The Dead Deads will be performing tomorrow night. Please put your hands together for Miss Letitia Wolf, Tish from the Dead Deads. Ooh, lordy, lordy. What a panel. I am digging this. Oh, come out to my house and we're going to have a good old time after we get done. All right, let's roll with it. We're going to start a little bit talking about music culture. And where does that come from? And Judy and I were talking about that. This idea that it's almost chicken before the egg. The culture of music, where does it come from? And is culture influenced by music? Which came first? So we started talking about, I love this analogy or this example, the Vietnam War. Starting with this idea that something that was very much controversial, very much protested, this war that the majority of the people in the United States were against, and we were there, and the musicians and the artists that came together in a peaceful way to protest that. And I mean, how cool is it that it's the 50th anniversary of Woodstock? What an absolute crazy, I've been watching a ton of documentaries on it, and just what a beautiful thing. You know, the fact that it ended up being not about money at all. They stopped taking money. They ran out of food, and the people in the area, the Jewish community, actually donated food. They ran out of food the first day at Woodstock. And for the rest of the time, food was based on donations. It was a true base of community in that festival. What a cool thing. So, the Vietnam War inspired Woodstock, the music and the art. And then a culture was really formed from Woodstock, if you want to call it the hippie culture. I wouldn't really call it the hippie culture. This free spirit, open-minded way of talking about what's happening in our community. And it's powerful. So let's talk a little bit about that in regards to if anybody has kind of just any kind of comments or talk about in our music scene, how are we inspired by culture? And what is it in the culture of our city, or what's going on today in modern times that is influencing our music? So anybody is willing and ready to jump up, go for it. Mr. Codie, go.
I'm gonna start. It's funny you mentioned the 50 years of Woodstock. When did we just celebrate 50 years here in Huntsville? The moon landing. Right down the road in Muscle Shoals, you just celebrated 50 years, I think, of fame or something in Muscle Shoals sound. So 50 years ago in North Alabama, you had the moon landing and you had what was going on in Florence happening at the same time. 50 years later, if you look at what's happening here in Huntsville now, it's kind of like another boom. It's like another cultural shift based on people moving here, based on the jobs that they're bringing, Facebook to Rocketdyne to Amazon's CEO breaking ground with Blue Origin. So culturally, Huntsville is changing. And with that, I just believe that the music changes. The people change. The desire for music and access to music changes. So, yes, what influences? I think they influence each other at the same time. I think they are Siamese twins, like the Spice, like Spice Radio. They are attached at the hip, so you can't have one without the other. And this area of the world, known as North Alabama, has been doing that for over 100 years. When W.C. Handy, the father of the blues, left Florence, he came to Alabama A&M in 1900 to be the band director here at Alabama A&M University. In 1902, he left and went to Memphis. So culturally, this area has always been about education, development, and music. And it's been a launch pad. So across the board, no matter the industry, no matter your art, this has been a launch pad place. And let's just continue to tap into the culture and embrace what we have here on a daily basis.
Anybody else want to talk in regards to that?
Yeah, they do. They turn me on sometimes. In a good way. Thank you for talking about us a little bit, Codie. You're so nice. Codie is the best. Can you give a hand for Codie, please? He's in all stratospheres. He's always working hard for Huntsville. I've never seen anybody work hard. But anyway, Huntsville, I think the special part about Huntsville is we're so diverse. The only reason I stayed in Huntsville is because the food is so good, and you can get good Vietnamese food. You can get everything here. And we've got this groundswell of educated people from all backgrounds that kind of just settled here. But with that comes great music and just a beautiful collage of humanity. So I think that's our strength, our hidden strength in Huntsville, is that we got so many people from so many different places. And all these women musicians that you're seeing around this weekend are really a huge testament to that, because I think they're covering so many genres this weekend too. There's a hip hop show, I believe last evening. Yep. We're covering it all, and women are involved in all of it, and that's amazing to me. I don't know, that's all I gotta say.
Great. And I don't know if do you guys have any experience or any examples of musicians that you feel like in Huntsville specifically that write music and reflect, like Judy and I were talking about as well, this idea that especially in the South, music was storytelling. It was newscasting. Especially in the South, in bluegrass music and blues and folk and country music in the South, originally it was about telling stories. It was about letting people know. They didn't have newspapers, they didn't have radio, they didn't have any of this. So music was a tool to teach people what was going on in the world around them. So I don't know if anyone here wants to talk a little bit about, do we know any musicians in town or anybody that even promotes or venue owners or recording, anything like that. If you guys have examples of musicians that are particularly rich in sharing the culture of maybe not just what's happening in Huntsville, but in general. Do we have musicians that are storytellers that really hold true to reflecting our culture? Terri? Absolutely.
Okay, maybe because we're mixing down this album right now, but Alan Little and this guy sitting next to me, John, have written some really great songs about things that have actually happened. And I know that one of the songs mentions Sonny Harford taking his son to school, and specifically. And John has written songs about, it's not necessarily specific to Huntsville, but we do have a military base here, and he's in the military. So some of his songs come from that point of view of returning. And he can probably speak to that a little better than I can.
Wow, thanks, Terri. Yeah, so when Alan's album drops, the first lyric straight on the album here is "Shameful Past" in our very own last name, and it's a story about Huntsville's role in the shameful past of segregation in the South. And that storytelling is just our example, right? So we host a quarterly singer-songwriter series. How many of y'all have been? Thanks. So it's been a great time, and being a transplant, I feel like that's how I've connected with a lot of a lot of the storytelling. Almost every artist we've had, on that program in that format, where it's very intimate, and you get to hear why they wrote it, and then you get to hear the words that come from their mouth. And the beauty of music is that it's not a dialogue. They get to just share their story, and there's no place for judgment. There's no questioning. It's just the story as they saw it in their time, in their season of their life. And I think, whether it's loss, it's love, it's tragedy, I think that having the experience, at least for me, seeing those individuals share that on stage in an intimate setting, absolutely. I think that's, Codie and I were just talking a little bit earlier, is something that this town has that most people places don't have. I'm from California. Everybody's smart because they tell you in the first 3 seconds. But except for, yeah. What did I do? So here in this town, what is so rich is people's willingness to share. And I think you see that in music. And because of the storied past and the vast variety of experiences, I think that the storytelling is incredibly deep and rich. And as long as we continue to offer that platform, it'll just get better. I think I have enough to say.
So I am a very Southern Gothic folk is kind of what I do. And it's kind of gritty and kind of weird. But I think that the first time that I ever heard someone that wasn't in my specific genre that I grew up loving was the Cole Boys. And when they did Dirty, it is just when you listen to that song, you smell fresh cut grass and like ballpark hot dogs. It is just the most like nostalgic snapshot of summer in the South thing I've ever heard, and it was just instantaneous for me. So that I would say that is a completely, as someone that didn't grow up listening to hip hop and didn't grow up clearly writing hip hop, God forbid. No one wants that. But yeah, that for me was a really game-changing moment when I heard that song specifically.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Anybody else?
Yeah.
2, 3, wonderful. No, just to piggyback off of Alex, I actually got to meet the Cole Boys probably a couple of months ago. Yeah, and so he actually gave me a CD. He was like, check it out. And so, when I checked it out, that was the first song I heard. And I was like, okay, he's talking about the Red Clay. Now, if you guys know about, I'm from up north, Midwest, East St. Louis, Illinois. I've always seen, thank you. I've always seen dirt be black, mud, and so it's brown. What is red clay? And so when I heard them talk about it, it was just a thing where, okay, their storytelling, they're giving me a little history about down south and what it is. And so just to hear that, and to hear it here in Huntsville was dope. And so it was, we had an opportunity to work with them, and so yes, that's all I just want to piggyback off that. Cool.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Alex. I guess there's a challenge for Alex to write hip hop now, so we'll be ready next Women's Week in Music. Let's do it. Challenge, right? Challenge yourself.
I'm fine. I just was going to make a joke real fast. I forget not everyone needs to hear me talk all the time. I was just going to say Alex tries hip hop, coming to No Huntsville near you.
If you do that, I'll play this accordion. And you definitely don't want to hear that. And by the way, I brought the accordion. Judy and I made up a fun little saying. If any of these answers go too long, then Evan plays a little song. Trust me, you don't want to hear it. So, but everybody's been great. Answers have been incredible already, to the point. Intelligent and emotional and experienced people up on the stage. Just love it. All right, let's move on a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about radio / podcasts. Number one, are people still listening to the radio?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the influence of the radio and podcast, and what it can do for our culture in general, our music culture in general, and what it can do specifically for musicians in marketing themselves and their professional atmosphere. Anybody would like to talk just in general about the power of radio and podcasts? I figured it would be the Spice Boys. Nice Spice Boys.
Yeah, so we do a little bit of both. We are producers for a for a show on WLRH called Valley Sounds, which is weekly. It's all focused on local music. But going back to what you were saying earlier, Evan, about people listening to the radio, I think there has been kind of a drop-off in people listening to that format, mostly because there are no real local radio stations anymore, except for WLRH, and there's a few out there, but most of the big radio stations have been taken over by conglomerates, and there's not really any sort of local support. I mean, that was the entire reason that we started Spice Radio, was that we wanted to provide an outlet for people to play original songs and be encouraged to produce original songs in the Valley that we weren't seeing elsewhere. I think Brad Posey may have been one of the only guys out there doing that at the time. There was a show on TAK called Local Brew for a couple of years that did the same thing, and I was in a band at the time that got a track on that show, and that was so inspiring to us. And to see those resources start to disappear, we wanted to do something about that. So I think it's really important, if radio is to survive, it needs to be locally focused, at least to a certain degree, to get people to listen to it, to get people to buy into that. It's got to be something that gives back to the community it's a part of.
To piggyback off of that, I think we're all in this room pretty much based off the podcast. I think that's how we all kind of know each other. If we never met, we met through the podcast. As far as terrestrial radio, I've got to give us...
No, disagree. Disagree.
One second. As far as terrestrial radio, I've got to give a shout out, of course, to WLRH, but WJB as well. They're very connected to the community. WJOU at Oakwood, WZZA in Muscle Shoals. And so, as a people, I see on Facebook a lot of artists saying that the radio stations don't support the artists. And I get that energy, but at the same time, us as artists and business professionals have to ask the question, when was the last time you supported the radio station? Because there's nobody just driving by dropping money off at the radio station. So what can we do to help the radio station get back connected to the community? So you have plenty of opportunities to advertise, they have a lot of, some of these radio stations have older people working in it, so maybe you can volunteer and help them get a digital presence on Instagram, help them with a website so now they can stream, especially the AM stations who will play your music, but help them make the step forward over into digital. So radio has always been a part of my story. And one last thing, I was in Iraq with the #1 song on WEUP. So I'm sitting in the middle of Baghdad with the #1 song on radio. So thanks to people like Hunley Batts, Dr. Hunley Batts, Tori Bailey over in Culver County. Radio is still an important piece of the community. Please do not give up on radio.
There you go.
I think what you just heard is such a moving testament, because we don't, I think, us in this room probably do, but I think the general public doesn't really even understand what radio is. It's just like the noise in their car when they're driving for a lot of people. So for us as artists, it can't be, yes, you can be on a playlist on Spotify, you can, you can be played on podcasts and things like that, but there is some kind of magic to being played on terrestrial radio. And for us as artists, it's very special and very important. And supporting our local radio stations is such a huge part of that. And I've just never heard someone put it so eloquently as you did. And I think it's something that we should all stay focused on and talk about on social media and inform our fans and friends that don't understand how all of that works. DJs, I wanted to be a DJ when I was a kid. It just seemed like this rock star thing. But DJs are one of the lowest paid professions in the music industry. And they have so much passion for music. I have a friend that's in his 60s that drives 2 hours to do his radio show every weekend, and he's making about $7-8 an hour to do it. So it's something where we need to support those passions of those people that are still doing programming, directing, and give them our money, show our love and support.
Wow. There you have it. Codie G and Tish throwing it down. I mean, those are absolutely, I'm blown away. That is absolutely incredible. I wish everybody at the radio stations in town would have heard both of you and what you say. Please share that to anybody that you know in the radio stations here in town. What beautiful words. Thank you, guys. All right. Let's keep kind of going on that. How can radio and podcasts help the market for musicians to make a living? Let's talk about a little bit specifically in regards to that. Not just, oh, I heard a song and that's great, blah, blah, blah. Like, how are the specifics? And you go down the line on what can I do as a young musician utilizing radio and podcasts to further my profession?
Back on the mic again.
Wicked.
Just real quick, one thing I would say is a lot of artists don't think about presents, which is where a radio station presents your show. And a lot of times radio stations are very open and excited to do that. Some stations you have to pay for presents, but a lot of stations are just, if they know that you're going to promote your show a lot, they're happy to jump on a presents and maybe mention it a few times. And that's something that's a grassroots thing. You can check in with all your local radio and podcasts and see if they want to do a presents on your show. And we've seen that to be very successful.
Awesome. Down the line.
As far as podcasts, which is where we kind of got our teeth cut making audio, the best part about podcasting, I don't know, I've never said that word wrong before, I don't think, but podcasting is that the bar to getting into it is very low. You can use a smartphone with a lapel mic and you can get good audio in a quiet space. So as far as starting your own content, it's very easy to get started. And there's so much stuff online, I won't go into nitty-gritty about that. But as far as like promotion, at Spice Radio, we don't really book bands, we don't book venues out most of the time. And but we have venues and artists alike coming to us all the time, being like, "Hey, who's this and who's this?" And since we get a good like view of all these different artists, we usually have 7 or 8 names to give them. So pretty much the more, it's all about connections, just like in any business. You meet the guy who books the shows for the venue you want, and you meet him 2 or 3 times, or he knows your name or something, and it's just 100% more likely that you're going to be booked for that venue. Other than that, it's all about making it easy for people who are going to promote you to promote you. Have if you're going to do Facebook promotion or online promotion, have it set up so they pretty much look at this. They've got a blurb about you. They have all the information all set up. I don't know what you call them, like fact sheets. Where, when, all that stuff. If you can send that out to local news channels, a lot of local news channels in the middle of the day, they'll get you on the spot. If you're doing a charity gig and you just want to bring your whole band to talk to WAFF or something like that, they'll probably talk to you, especially if you have all your information ready to go. So there are resources out there.
I want to say a little testimonial of something that happened just a few days ago with the Women in Music Weekend. The Presents, Star 99.1 actually hopped on board to help present this weekend to the public. And we got an email forwarded to our team from one of the artist managers, and they said, "Hey, we just wanted to pass this on to you." One of the local singer-songwriters, Billy Pettinger, who moved here from Canada, she's an incredible artist. She's written a lot of songs, tons, and she has songs in movies and TV, Netflix, that kind of thing. So she's established herself on her own. She had an interview at the radio station that they recorded and played, and they played one of her songs. I don't think she's ever been on the radio in Huntsville. She's only lived here a few years. So we got an email that this local person, radio listener, emailed the station and said, hey, I heard this song. I haven't heard it again, but I listen to your radio station all the time. These are the lyrics. You know, what are the odds that they would be able to figure out who that was? It came back to Billy Bettinger, and they connected him to her website, and he bought an album that morning. That's what it's all about to me. It gives me chills to see that circle, you know, happen. And we think that radio, I hate to say the word dead, but it's not. It's hurting a little bit now, you know, but like Codie and Letitia said, I think, what can we do to help them? That's, wow. I mean, my mind is blown with that question. That's a challenge for us. I think that's one major challenge that we can take home from today. Because what we just experienced with Billy Pettinger, one album got sold to one fan. How many people will he talk to about her and share from there? And it keeps her afloat. It helps her make her living. So anyway, that's my little testimonial to real life radio still working the way it was created to begin with.
Awesome.
Okay, so I lost my words. But no, going back to the promotion and everything, it goes back to the very last question. How do we support our radio station? If the radio stations aren't getting like that help that they need, whether it's a podcast, it's harder for the artists to even get that same promotion. And so R&B Vibes has had the opportunity to work with WJB, and with working with them, they have taken some of our teammates and brought us on, and we've done our first interview. It was like, wow, I never thought that I never thought that Ryan was going to be on the radio station. And what they did for us, it let us know that we actually do have something that's positive and that's actually happening. But to take it a step further, they took our host, Dre the drummer, and they're giving him an internal opportunity to actually work in the radio station and see how things work. And so it goes beyond just like, when I think about artists, I don't think about just musicians, singers. I think about painters. I think about anyone that has a love for art. Art goes beyond just, oh yeah, I sing in the bathroom or I play an instrument. Art is painting. Art can be you walking back and forth as a model. It can be you doing hair, makeup. But the fact that the radio station took the opportunity to give one of our teammates the opportunity to go in and learn how old radio worked. Not the new digital where you just push a button. I'm talking about press play, okay, 5 seconds at, when they get to 0.5, you gotta change it. You gotta change the CD, you gotta do this. And on my birthday, I went up there to support him, and I got an opportunity to see that. And so radio was doing a lot of big things. And so without our support, there is no radio. And so about a couple of months back, we did the fundraiser for WJB. And in doing that, it takes money. If you don't have money, you can't run your own house. Am I right? If you don't have money, you can't put gas in your car. Okay? If you don't have money, you shouldn't be eating right now. Anybody eating for free out there? Okay, cool. But I say all that to say that it has to start somewhere. And so starting with the radio, and then the radio gives the artist a platform. And then so forth and so forth. So I say all that to say we have to make sure that we're supporting one another. It's one big cycle, one big circle. I support you, you support them, and so forth and so forth. So continue to support the radio. Space Radio.
Yeah.
And I just have one other thing to say about WJB. They use some local music as theme songs for some of their shows, and that's like the artist actually makes money on that, like when they play it. So that's just another way that it can be done.
I'll take this in a slightly different direction, but I sit here and I think about, okay, how can, my mind starts running, and I start brainstorming new ideas of how to take us forward. Because as a music community, how can we work together, and how can we work with radio, and how can we find some mutually beneficial ways to get more local artists played on local radio? And as Codie was saying, yes, we have to support local radio. But I sit here as Arts Huntsville, and we actually work with local radio, and we buy radio advertising to promote our local arts scene. Well, we're not the only people in town who care about the local arts scene. If you're driving down the road, listening to the local advertisers, there are some other local businesses that really care about the local arts scene as well. And so I start thinking about, all right, how together as the music community can we better work together and maybe start working with other advertisers and start saying, hey, we want to hear more local music. And it's about working together as a community and finding those partnerships. So this excites me because I think there are real opportunities for us because there are some people out here that we are putting money into it, but how can we join forces and move it forward? So I'm sorry, I'm sitting here kind of getting excited, but I see opportunity.
It's a great point, Allison. Thank you. We appreciate all of your answers on that. They're all good ones and stuff to think about. Ways that we can support and ways we didn't know already. Thanks, guys. Let's get on to the next question. How can we perpetuate the circle of art, connecting music to the fans and the artists? I've always had the belief that a successful equation in regards to a music scene is a triangle. It's 3 points. It's the venue, the musician, and the audience. The three main factors of that music scene, and all three have to be active together equally. If one is off, it is not equal and it will not work, in my opinion. So, when you have musicians that are working really hard at marketing themselves and doing well professionally, writing great songs and being great artists, and then you have venues that are slipping, that are not supporting those musicians in the correct way, it goes off kilter. Or maybe you have a venue that's just killing it, but don't have any local bands to book. Or you have a venue and musicians that are killing it together and nobody shows up to support the show. So you have to have that balance between all three of them working hard together. All three have to pay, all three have to sacrifice, all three have to support each other. Right? Right. That's what I'm talking about. So let's talk a little bit about how each of those three can work together. Each of those three can facilitate a successful equation that way. I wanted to take it back to Allison and talk a little bit about the concerts in the park in regards to it's a really neat thing to kind of see Arts Huntsville and the Arts Council being a general art supporter, but then I kind of want to talk to her a little bit about how music specifically has been important in regards to the city of Huntsville, and talk a little bit about how the concerts in the park started and the growth and how you think that it grew and why did it grow. To me, I think it has a really neat balance of all three: musicians, audience, and the venue or the promoters or whatever. Allison.
Well, concerts in the park, there are some of you in this room who have a longer history with concerts in the park than I do, because concerts in the park has been going on for more than 20 years now. I've been around for 10 of those, but it is just this community tradition. 10 years ago, we didn't have a lot of outdoor music. And now you can go through the spring, summer, and fall, and there will be tons of outdoor music. But Concerts in the Park is the oldest. It's been around. It's been around decades now. And it is in that beautiful downtown setting. And it just has that Monday night community tradition. So it has the venue, and then it has an amazing following by local musicians. We send out requests for applications in the winter, and we'll get 100 applications for those 18 spots. And we're always challenged to blend some ongoing and ongoing performers and new ones. it's a partnership between Arts Huntsville and the City of Huntsville Parks and Rec, so there's a long history to it that, it's been ongoing, and there's been some things that we've really worked to change over the years. One of the challenges is that for a number of years, musicians weren't paid. We finally made that change. Maybe don't tell my partners that we made that change. Might have not been an officially sanctioned change, but we made that change. The challenge that we still see is it's this huge event that draws a couple thousand people to downtown Huntsville every Monday night in the summer, but it's a free event. So that's one of those challenges, that we have to change the culture locally, that people get used to paying for music. So that's one of our biggest challenges right now with Concerts in the Park. It's great. It's community tradition. People love it. You get to bring out popular favorites and then some newer musicians to the music scene. But people have to know, when you go see bands, any other time, you gotta be ready to pay for that music. And so that's one of the internal challenges that we struggle with. But at the same time, it's a great place to introduce people to some music that they haven't seen, and a great mix of diverse music throughout the summer.
Absolutely. And I agree with you about the paying thing. Man, we got people in this town that are willing to throw down $75 for their bar tab and $10 at the door for a fee for a band is too much, apparently. But once again, it's just an example. It's just an example. And those free shows can facilitate the love of music in general. It's not a bad thing for there to be free shows. I was involved in Concerts on the Dock and helped to start that concert series. And in 6 years, we went from averaging about 35 or 40 people every Friday night for 6 months to 6 years later, averaging over 1,000 people. In 6 years, people in Huntsville are waiting for it. Even if they don't even know that they like music, there is an element to music that inspires everyone. You don't have to be a music lover, or specifically, and it's also about art appreciation in general, and really understand. I had a really, really difficult time. I went to Calhoun way back in the day, and I took a class called Art Appreciation, which is total BS, by the way. It literally taught me how to break down a painting and the value of the painting, and it told me how to break down music and the value of this and this. And I was like, man, I walked out in the middle of that class because it had little to do with art appreciation, more about the specifics of the art rather than the general appreciation. It's not about taste. You can go and appreciate music and the experience that music brings without it being in your taste bubble. Like you can go and be like, man, country music's not really my thing, but the experience of this country band that's playing original music, you can say, man, this enriches my life by being a part of this experience. So I think that in general too, not just saying that I'm gonna go see bands that I like already, I'm gonna risk that $5, $10, $15 to go support local music because it's an experience and I get to share it with the people that I love and live with.
Evan, can I ask a question?
Sure, real quick, yeah.
So I was wondering if any of the panel members have ever done house concerts, and if they found that's a way to connect with the community, to present their music, get an appreciation with the audience, and if that's something that the rest of the community should, and if that's something that we should try to pursue as music appreciators.
Yeah.
I'm
No, you go ahead, please. I love hearing you talk.
About 2 weeks ago, the Cowboys and Rudy DeVille, they started a situation called The Crib, because there's not a lot of live music in North Huntsville. So there's not a lot of spaces that create that energy in North Huntsville. So they took it upon themselves to build a stage behind in the home, and I think they have plans to build one outside of it. But it makes it more of a community situation, and so I think this will be the third situation that's coming up. They call it the crib, like we're going to the crib. So
Can we get an invite?
yeah, you're sitting right next to him right there. But it's a space to where you can open up your home, and I think Huntsville has that energy to where we have enough creators in town to where everything doesn't have to be inside a venue. We can bring live music to your neighborhood, and but the first one that I went to was the first night, and when I say you had probably 20 to 30 artists from Huntsville that came out just to do a song because they wanted to be a part of that energy. Country Locos was in the building that night. Shout out to those guys. Cricket, DJ A Twist, but it's a way that so that's a great question, and it's a great idea and opportunity to move music around in this fragmented situation that we live in.
I imagine that you guys have probably done house concerts too. As singer-songwriters, it's definitely a part of a singer-songwriter's bread and butter is house concerts. But I think what you bring up is an even deeper question, which is there are people out there that understand the value of art, and there are people that don't. And it's not good or bad. It's just how they were raised, what they know, what their collected intelligence on the subject is. So house concerts are a great way to keep our art going with the benefactors that do understand the value of art. But in the meantime, I do think it's our responsibility as art lovers to start a training or a re-education of society on art now that the record industry is crumbling and is a different thing. People always thought of artists as rich people, and we need to re-educate society that we're not, and retrain them, retrain their ideas, because I think a lot of people out there would pay for the art they love if they understood that we're not getting paid what we deserve. So the house concerts keep our lifeblood, but I think in addition to that, we can also really think about, crowdsourcing was kind of in Daisy, that's Daisy, she's in my band. We play together. We were talking about how, crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, that's kind of a thing that's been going on to make up for the fact that people aren't paying for music the way they used to. But I feel like the next evolution of that could be the retraining of society as a whole to just pay for things they love. I love that I'll send them money without us having to do a whole campaign of, we need money. It's just more, I love this artist, so I'm going to contribute to their cause in whatever way I still can because their music is now free to me. So that would be my second half to the house concert thing is, let's just retrain everyone to be like you.
So as a Steve Hall house concert repeat offender, played many times, there is nothing that kind of rejuvenates me as an artist like playing to a room of people who have come to a home to hear you and listen specifically to you and not just drink with you in the background, which is fine, but it's nice to have a moment sometimes where you're like, oh my God, this is a community of people. This person has invited me into their circle. And it's just such it's like just a fucking hug. I mean, it's just great. It's so nice. Yeah, and so please, everyone do more of them. It keeps us going, I think.
So there were a couple statements I want to touch on. So I think that one thing that we have a responsibility for is flipping the value statement, right? It's not about going to get wings and there's music. It's about building a network and a community that allows for promotion, right? That flips the script so that you're going to see your favorite musician and there happens to be wings there. And I think, something, and so that takes deliberate re-education, that takes an insurgency, frankly, and I call it that because that's the way I think. And that's frankly what Listen Local Huntsville is trying to do by providing opportunities and tool sets, right? We want to flip the pyramid, right? The music industry pyramid used to be wealthy folks stepping on the backs of artists. We want to flip it where there's a support system that allows artists to practice their craft without all the hustle, right? Social media is a pain in the ass. Building audiences that are for direct targeting, they're fucking hard, and they take years to build. So in all that, what we'd like to do, and what we're going to be doing the next few years with a couple programs that we're launching here kind of quietly, is to remove that hustle and to flip that script, right? So that venues that have food and whatever, that's great. You're going to start seeing a lot more, advertisements for that artist in both on their social media and on the venue social media. So people kind of accidentally re-educate, right? Re-education intentionally gets a lot of conflict. But if we can, use the tools available to us to flip that script by promoting the artist and the venue, and they show up and there happens to be wings there, and they get to listen to their favorite musician, that's awesome. Now, it doesn't answer the question of the audience who gets to see it for free, but those are exposure events for the artist, right? There's really two major events or two major situations that we've seen in our experiences. There's the exposure events, and then there's the ticketed events. And those exposure events allow for successful ticketed events, right? Being savvy from the social media aspect, building those targeted audiences that showed up for that free show, those are the same kinds of people that look a lot like the folks that are going to show up for your paid show. So this is what we're doing in the background. It's taken us 4 years to kind of start getting it, and that should be a tool set for artists available to them, because you should be practicing your craft. I was talking to Josh just this morning, and it's like, I don't have nearly as much time to write music because I'm having to hustle. And when you have to hustle, you're paying bills, you're booking. If we want to provide tool sets that allow for all those pains in the ass, chasing down managers, finding the times, all that stuff should be accessible as a tool set. And it's not for us, it's in support. Our mission is support, showcase, and promote artists. It's not to support, showcase us. So we want to do that as an insurgency, and we hope you join our insurgency. Frankly.
Yeah. Great stuff, John, everybody else. And Alex, it reminded me of something that maybe I don't think about enough, and I have plenty of musician friends. The experience for the artist as well. Like, I love how we're all just so focused on how the experience for the audience. I mean, how important is it for an artist to get on stage and feel like they're enjoying themselves and they're not just a paid servant? Seriously, I mean, or an unpaid servant. Yeah, exactly. But just that idea that they're up there feeling supported, and they're more than just paying at the doorways. Venues that support their artists that are making them money, do they have waters ready for them when they show up on stage? The little things, we can spoil our artists in little ways that just show we care. So yeah, everybody deserves to be taken care of. And I mean, I can't say enough for Eddie and everybody here at Sidetracks and what they've been doing. We really appreciate you, Eddie. Everybody here. I know it is a struggle, my friends. It is one of the hardest businesses to be successful in at all. So praise to you and other venues that are just trying. Way to go.
Evan, could I
Yes, absolutely.
And there's a lot of stuff that don't cost the community hardly anything in supporting like touring musicians. So I know a lot of talking about house shows and stuff. I know a lot of people that have toured nationally, played huge events, and they still talk about that one house show that was really crazy in like New York or somewhere. But there's a lot you can do. If there's a band that you're like, why don't they ever come here? If you can find housing for them, if you have a band, if you have a place for a touring band to take a shower, or you can like, yeah, see, there you go. You seriously are gonna attract some people. You're gonna attract people that you didn't know like needed that. But we're right in the middle of Atlanta. We're right in the middle of Nashville. We're kind of on that swing, and we got to take advantage of that and like make it a hospitable place. But that may not cost, if you find the right people like this guy. It may not cost us very much, so that's all I wanted to make the point on. Yeah, tour B&B.
And And Thursday night gigs, man. Friday and Saturday nights are where the bands make their money in the big cities, but Wednesday and Thursday night gigs, you'll be surprised. Bands, if you give them a place to stay, like you said, man, feed them some good food. A lot of times you'll be able to help them, they'll be able to help your culture locally. One thing in regards to house shows, I would be remiss not to mention Rita Burkholder. I've known her for years, and that woman, and I think she's about to move away, but that woman has done house shows in Huntsville for like 25 years, and I have seen some of the most incredible music in Huntsville because of her. So I hope that someone shares that message on Facebook. If anybody knows her and is friends with her on Facebook, please send that message to her, because she has done incredible stuff. Also, one other thing really quick, in regards to these raw house shows or having it at a house, this year ends the reign of Gip's Place in Bessemer, Alabama. I don't know if anybody knows about this place. I had the pleasure of going there last year. Gip's Place was the last, what they call the last juke joint in the state of Alabama, which is basically just you're playing a bunch of bands in the backyard. And this guy did it from 1952 to 2019. A beautiful man, and he is literally on his deathbed right now, and they had to shut the place down. But I'm telling you, he started with a prayer and Amazing Grace every single time since 1952. And I saw Chris Simmons play there and play an Amazing Grace rendition, Southern rock style, on his guitar, and it was one of the most amazing moments of my life. So, man, I had to say something about it. I know it's kind of sad to talk about because it's not there anymore, but man, what an absolute incredible thing. It's just an example of, stay within the law. Like, don't have music past 10 o'clock kind of thing in certain neighborhoods and all that. But we have opportunities as the audience to create house shows and to create moments of music experience like that. How cool. All right, let's kind of move on. This is a fun question, and I'm gonna ask everybody at this table, including Judy. I'm gonna start with Judy, in fact. And what I would like to invite everyone to do is short and sweet answers. So within 10 words, I guess, or maybe less. The question is, what do you think a solid/successful music scene is?
Wow, 10 words. You didn't tell me you were going to do this to me.
Surprise!
One.
Wait, how does this work again?
10 words, you got one. It's okay, it doesn't happen.
Well, the first word that comes to my mind is vibrant, and I know that's an adjective, but vibrant can mean so many things. It means colors, shapes, the way it illuminates. Well, that's a lot of words, I'm sorry. And that's just one thing.
That was more than 10 words.
Oh my gosh, that's really hard.
It's okay, you can go over there.
I think for me is my personal vision is when the community can shine on each other without jealousy and competition.
Inclusive and transparent and supportive.
Oh, girl.
What she said. What she said.
6 words.
Yeah, what she said.
Yeah.
And she actually said because that's what I see. So definitely supportive. I think, especially in music, you definitely have to be supportive of each other. And I agree with Judy. Jealousy is just it's just sitting ready for a failure for anything besides music. Besides music, just everything. But with music, supportive, and like I said, just no jealousy. Everybody should be just happy for everyone.
Hey,
Is Codie go last?
No, not too many words. It's simple. An educated music business city. I think it's a lot of emotion in this city when it comes to music industry, but I don't think we have enough educated people who know the music business. Because you can't get mad at the venue if you know what the venue's business is. You can't get mad at the artists when you know their business. So I think a lot of the things that's been going on in Huntsville has been uber emotional. We deserve. This is not a participation award industry. So I think if we knew the business, then we'll be a more successful music city.
Right. Well, you did take mine. I was thinking inclusivity, but I think participatory is also one that's important too. A space that allows not only just the musicians and the artists, but also the audience and the people who are experiencing it to experience it together, to be a part of that experience and to participate in the promotion of that experience too. So.
Ditto. Diverse. Growing. Collaborative.
All the buzzwords.
Open and supportive. All artists rise together.
Yeah, she wrote that down. Diversity was a big thing that I really had at the top of my head. When you think about music, it's just not one genre of music. It's not one just genre of race. I just say, man, music connects people. And so my perfect scene would be just a bunch of different people, a bunch of different music, and what she said.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
All right, well, all the good answers have been taken, so I'll just touch on what everybody else has already said. Supportive, collaborative, open. And a big part of that is events like this where we as creators and artists and audience members can get together and learn each other's business models, learn each other's art, learn what everybody's doing, and figure out ways we can work together.
So I guess I don't think this is going anywhere if we don't get the young people involved. Like early on, we got to get young, original music going on. So that's my three words there.
Shout out to Maitland Conservatory.
Yes, to really bring out education. I guess that's all I gotta say there.
I'd say open-minded, like as far as the audience goes, but also the musicians. Don't be afraid to be creative. And as I'm going to quote my husband here, I might mess up the last part of this a little bit, but he always says new music should have one foot in the familiar and one in outer space.
Yeah.
So it's, I think I got bingo from the buzzwords. I got nothing left to say. We have one shot at this, right? Like this time in Huntsville's history is now. It's one time. And if we want to have the accountability, the honesty, the supportiveness, the collaborative nature, the inclusivity, the exceptional pay, and keep it intelligent, we have one shot to get it sewn into the fabric of the foundation. Because when the city blows up, it's going to have that foundation. So thank you, everybody, for what you do. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all been said. So as an artist, I would say like the Holy Trinity, what you were talking about earlier. Great artists, supportive audiences and supportive venues. So yeah, so we can all help each other and grow together.
All right, well, I guess to me, a healthy music community, it looks like one that fosters original content and values the individuality of artists. We don't need to be the Guinness Book World Records most Tennessee whiskey covers ever attended in the state of
Real quick. It just popped up. What we have up here is what I see as perfect.
Yes.
Like really, if you look. Okay, thank you. I'm done.
I agree. What a list of people up here. Educated and inspiring and active artists in their profession and in their hobbies. I'm thrilled to be sitting up here with you guys. You know what? I want to talk to Codie. Yes, you're in trouble, Codie. No, you're not in trouble at all. I'd love to hear, because I have not heard this story, and I think the people here in this room would gather inspiration and motivation. Tell us a little bit about the story of how you facilitated getting hip hop into the Alabama Hall of Fame.
So, wow. That was a 4-year process. Started in 2014, and we ended up getting it in there like 4 years later, 2018. So, I work in the arsenal. I'm a government employee. Disabled combat veteran. So I'm part of the culture, from the get money side. But one day I felt like I had an out-of-body experience, and I ended up on the bridge in Decatur. And my car just automatically went right on 72 West. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to be going to a bunch of shows today. And I get down there, okay, what am I gonna do? Most of the museums are closed on Mondays. And, I guess I'm gonna go to Mecca and just touch the building and get some energy, because one of my groups had broke up, so I was kind of lost as a manager and behind the scenes guy. And so I just was kind of down, depressed. So, let me go to most shows. And so I'm going up to touch the building, and the door opens. And this lady said, "Can I help you?" And the first thing I told her was, "Can I tell you what we did about music, what we've done in music?" And she said, "Come on in." And I'm like, wow, okay. So I get in, and this guy, Dick Cooper, comes around the corner. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Dick Cooper, but Dick Cooper took a lot of the pictures back in the day when most of the shows was really popping, and a lot of the pictures in the documentary, Mr. Cooper took those. And he was the curator at the time. So he comes around the corner, scruffy guy, jeans, tore up t-shirt. I'm like, this is the curator? But he said, it's so funny. He said, "Did the black preachers from Florence send you over here?" And I said, "No, sir, but your prayers have been answered." So that day I showed him a little bit of what we've done. And so like I said, it was going back and forth. And during that time is when me and John was talking earlier about the 7-2 that I first started to really experience muscle shows and Huntsville and what 72 has done for culture. And so through two different curators, I got to give Dixie Griffin and John Mosley a lot of credit for the help that they gave us. And so Dixie retired last October. And she said the last thing that she wanted to do before she was retired was to make sure that we got that exhibit, which is a permanent exhibit within the Hall of Fame. It's not temporary. It will always remain in there. With that being stated, that relationship has grown to us. We just put Spanky Alford. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Spanky. Spanky will be on the ballot this year. So that being able to be a part of tourism and Alabama's history, because they said all genres was represented within the halls, and it wasn't. So we've got hip hop in there. We've got Gucci Man featured. He's out of Bessemer. Attitude, who produced for Attitude, actually is a Birmingham rapper who wrote Nelly Furtado's "Promiscuous Girl." So an Alabama rapper wrote her biggest record. We got Rick Rock in the halls. He's from Montgomery. He's worked with Jay-Z, Tupac, Method Man, Wu-Tang. So he's an Alabama producer. So a lot of people didn't understand Alabama's ties to hip hop. So it's just a blessing, and man, I can't thank the people down in Muscle Shoals for allowing us to be inclusive, but not only inclusive, just to get our story heard. And one last thing, hip hop is the youngest genre in there. So all the other genres have kind of like stalled out a little bit. It's very, very dope to be around the hip hop community and knowing that exhibit can grow for the next 40, 50 years. So. Yeah.
Wow. We appreciate you, Codie. What a cool story about how sometimes you just follow your heart and supporting art just for art's sake, and you never know what could happen. Man, that's incredible. So let's just kind of go. Anybody in the three tables here that wants to talk about anybody that they know, it could be themselves, but anybody that they know that has broken the mold in regards to like what Codie has done on a city, state, or national impact in regards to just the value of supporting and representing music of all kinds. Anybody's got any examples? I'd love to hear.
I'm gonna shout out to No Huntsville and Alex Tries released, right? First episode? Monday? She's gonna be trying. You're going to be trying all sorts of weird stuff, like rock climbing in here. She's done rock climbing. I lost my phone in the Flint River kayaking. Okay, we have more things. But yeah, No Huntsville has been like supporting artists doing great high quality stuff for so long now. They're probably about as old as us. They're probably like 4 or 5 years old now, and they're just, if y'all have not tuned in, they just launched a whole new series with hip hop, food, which is going to be awesome, and comedy. And they also have some like fun facts. And Alex Tries, of course. Alex is going to try some really stuff. So big shout out to them for what they're doing for the city.
Yes, No Huntsville. I love those guys.
To give a shout out to Arts Huntsville as well with the Arts Collaborative. Through them, they've gotten a lot of arts programs into the school. Specifically, we got a chance to work with you guys at McNair, right? And with that project, they actually have convinced schools to take an arts program and combine it with a core education program. In that instance, we did it with a social studies class. And this class got an opportunity to learn about social studies through music and through expression. So I have to give a shout out to you guys for that.
I just have to give a shout out to, again, Maitland Conservatory. I'm so impressed with what you guys have done. Just the entire concept of you're teaching kids music, but you're also teaching kids all the stuff around music, the production, just beat making, everything you get, like live performance, all the stuff that I wish I had access to as a kid. You guys are doing, and that's such a valuable thing for this community. So shout out to you guys.
I'm going to second what he said, Maitland Conservatory. The fact that they're able to take not only musicians, but even sound guys. Sound guys are also considered very, very, good job, Matt. Sound guy. Come on, give me a good hand. Without a sound guy, you sound like me. I know, horrible. But with the sound guy, you sound like Alex. Deqn Sue. But anyway, the fact that working with Mario over these, a year and a half now, he's one of our partners, and he's actually been able to, R&B Vibes has been able to take some of their students, some of their sound guys, and actually include them with R&B Vibes Live. And so it's been, a great partnership, but also just a great opportunity to take those students that are in school, interning, and then give them real live work. So, shout out to Maitland.
I want to give a shout out to, I don't know if you guys have heard of this place, but Maitland Conservatory. Me and a friend was talking last night, but we grew up in a time to where there was, every house had an instrument. And so when computers came out, it got to a point to where every house didn't have a computer. Now every home has a computer, 4 or 5 flat screens, 2 laptops, so many different technical situations to where instruments are no longer in the home. So it's like the roles have reversed. So to have somebody like Mario here teaching kids, most of the schools don't have real solid music programs. And one of the things I think Mario is doing, especially in a city like Huntsville, is if you can pick up an instrument and make something that wasn't there yesterday, you will probably have great problem-solving skills when life starts to beat you up. So by taking these creative situations out of our schools, especially from the area that he has a school in North Huntsville, and the situations that those kids are coming up against with poverty, crime, and being looked down upon, they do not have the life skills to be able to fight and create solutions to get them out of the problems that they have never sowed upon them. So Mario Maitland is providing an opportunity for kids of all types to be able to create again in Huntsville on a daily basis, from 2 years old to 99. And he's the only one doing it. So brother, this educated music system that we're talking about, it starts with you.
I have a quick add-on to this. Do we get to have suggestions for improvement for Huntsville? Okay, so this is the time. All right, and I'm going to tie a few things together here with this. At a Dick Cooper house party, how many years ago, 8 years ago or something, I ran into a woman there who worked at the public library out there in Florence, Muscle Shoals area. And one thing they were doing there, and I struck up a conversation with her because I used to be a reference librarian here in Huntsville at Fort Book. So anyway, I like to talk to librarians. Plus, I worked for a library automation company for a while. She said that their library had started taking donations of guitars and various instruments. They were checking those instruments out to kids for a month at a time, and it could be renewed. Really, it would be awesome if our library would follow suit, and it would probably take some donors. Microwave Dave Foundation, another place to give a shout out to. And it would be a great add-on to what Maitland's doing and what Microwave Dave Foundation are doing.
That's a great idea. Anybody else?
I don't think it can be underestimated. When we talk about a scene and a culture, I don't think it can be underestimated how important it is to raise our children up with art. And we just did a Birmingham rock camp, and to see those little girls playing their instruments, it really made us reflect, because I remember I used to have a school for girls called Rock and Roll Girls Club like 10 years ago. And I've watched those girls start bands, and those camps, those clubs, the movement of training women to play music as little girls started probably 8-10 years ago. We really started seeing those, and now we have the pleasure of getting to see those little girls front bands that are getting signed to major labels. We're getting to see the fruits of that labor in a paradigm shift where now we're playing music festivals that are 50-50 men and women. So that all starts with what you're doing. So whether it's inclusivity with race, gender, whatever, if we can start where before children realize what cool is and just care about making sounds and expressing themselves, we really have a game changer.
I think that anyone I would talk about is pretty much in this room right now. Like Tim Miller, who is everywhere all the time. Just the low-key supporters. I mean, Listen Local, who has brought original content into the forefront over and over. Spice Radio, who had me do my very first podcast interview ever, and now I never shut up, and people forget I'm a musician because I just won't shut up and sing ever. I mean, love you! Mario, who lets people hold benefit shows at Maitland, I mean, does things for the community nobody else does. Codie, who, I mean, I have never had the question of whether or not the genre I was in would be accepted as a state's art form, and that is bananas to me. And that is just a privilege that I've never, ever had to worry about. And the fact that people are out there fighting on the pavement for the opportunity to be recognized as a valid art form is insane to me.
and then Evan and Microwave Day Day, but most of all, Judy Allison, who is such a low-key supporter of everybody all the time. I've never met someone who just wants people to be included and educated and part of whatever she's doing at any given moment. And I think that that cannot ever be undervalued because that is the backbone that this community is based on.
Anyone?
John? Thanks, Alex. John?
So I'm trying to figure out how to frame this because
Just gonna hold that mic.
Yeah. Those are really powerful. I don't know if this is even holds a candle. I want to give a shout out to just Huntsville in general, which sounds awkward, but not being from here, this is valuable, I think. So we ran a little contest supporting her for the 50th anniversary of the moon landing, Music from the Moon. It was, a couple countries had 240 submissions. It was awesome. We had a good time with it. We wanted to create a body of art, celebrate this thing, give artists a platform, and that was awesome. But I don't want to talk about us. We brought the winner to Huntsville, a young lady from Portland, Oregon, who had a very different feel to her music scene. Toxic, I would say that's my words, not hers. Unsupportive, all the things basically that are, opposites of everything we listed. She came here and had such a warm reception, and it was not hard. We didn't have to take her to many places or introduce her to many people, and she absolutely fell in love with this place. She wants to come back here to cut her second record.
Yes!
She wants to. I think if we can convince her to move here, it would be a very easy sell. But I think it's a testament to this. Everybody here that all the points Alex made is like these are the folks who are laying the foundation for an incredibly powerful and beautiful future. And it's so validating to see somebody come from outside their space here, see what all y'all are creating, and say, hell yeah, I want to come back. Yeah. And it's really cool.
Absolutely. It's great to hear. And so basically we have that core foundation, and it's just about multiplying the core foundation. And that just takes little bits, social media little bits, little experiences and music festivals and radio and podcasts and venues and all of this, little things. But being an influencer, people like us in these three tables, being an influencer, indicator of what a great music scene is. So you guys have talked about that. What a great panel. I'm blown away. I'm gonna need about 3 weeks to digest everything that you guys have said, and it's all great, positive, forward-moving stuff. Fantastic. Can we give a round of applause to all of our panelists? Miss Alex Hendrix, Miss Deqn Sue, John Schmidt, Terri Cavender, the Siamese Spice twins, Ben and Dan. What do we have next over there? Ryan Felton from R&B. Miss Allison Dillon-Jauken from Arts Huntsville. Mario from Maitland. Mr. Codie G. Miss Canita Rogers. Miss Letitia Wolf Tish from the Dead Beds. My name is Evan Billiter. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And I didn't have to play the accordion either.
Thank you for not playing the accordion.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to pass it on to Judy. Thanks, Judy, for inviting me and all of us here.
Thank you, Evan. He does this so well, doesn't he? Thank you so much.
That was awesome.
When I thought about emceeing this whole thing, I'm like, oh, I can't do this. No. And I'm like, Evan, He needs to be, he is such an important part of our community. He has such a heart for art and creatives here and community and love for each other. Thank you for all that you do and who you are. And I just want to say a couple of quick things before I get into our raffle. Tonight we do have a songwriter night. It's called She Writes, Songwriter Showcase. All Huntsville local women songwriters. It is going to be a sweet time, just saying. Have you ever heard of Andy Warhol? I picked one of his quotes for the event. And I think this is what we all want to remember for what we're doing. And thank you, all of you who are artists and who aren't artists. Thank you for what you do to contribute to our community. And thank you to some of our biggest supporters. Some of you guys show up at every single one of our shows. Thank you. It really means a lot. It really does. Thank you for being here. So this quote from Andy Warhol is that the idea is not to live forever, but to create something that will. And that's what we're trying to do as artists. We're trying to create something that will live forever. And when we write a song and you sing it because you know the words, it's in your DNA. And it's going to move and become something new. And that's what keeps us going. It really does. I've had Delivery Girl in my heart this past week. I just love that song, Deqn Sue. You gotta look her up if you don't know her. But anyway, thank you guys. If you can come tonight, we do have tickets available at the Campus 805 event at 7 o'clock. It's sure to be a great night. So now I'm going to pick some tickets for some raffles. Thank you guys for coming out today. I appreciate y'all.